I am a StarCraft 2 streamer of several years now. I've been playing the game for almost 7 years, and yeah, definitely learned a lot about not just the game, but also took away some big life lessons as well. So this is what I came up with. The first one is hard work pays off. So not just hard work, but also smart work. If you just repeatedly do the wrong things, you're not going to get any better than where you started. So hard work is part of it, but you also have to have some sort of strategy for how you're going to improve, whether it's at StarCraft or something else. In StarCraft, there's definitely a hierarchy of importance for things you need to work on. Probably near the top of the list is strategy, macro, following a build order, and then you get later down the list and you have things like speed and mechanics, and then lower on the list would be things like micro and just like individual engagements. The second thing I learned is to take control of your journey. At the end of the day, you're the one in control of your destiny, and yeah, it's true that life isn't fair, and StarCraft is a lot more fair than StarCraft is a lot more fair than real life. So there's still things you can't control. You can't control if your opponent is a barcode, if they're a stream cheater, if they're a smurf. I mean, we all encounter these people, but I'd say they're in the minority. In the bigger picture, they're in the minority. Every other game is totally fair. You start with the same number of workers. The game is as balanced as it'll ever be. But then you see people who blame their lack of progress on things like balance, smurfs, hackers. You know, we all know these people. I'm sure we've all done it at some point ourselves. But it is a personality trait to always have an external locus of control. Like, if you believe that you're given all the things you'll ever have and you'll achieve whatever you're based on what you're born with, then what's the point of trying, right? But some people who have more of a growth mindset choose to believe that you have your circumstances, and we all have varying levels of how good of a hand we're dealt, right? But in StarCraft, it's relatively even, and there might be some small inequities, but we all start at the bottom. Some people might be faster learners, some people might have quicker hands, less wrist pain, but at the end of the day, everybody has to go through the same hurdles to improve. Everyone has to die to the same cheeses. Everyone has to die to mech. Like, you have to go through certain hurdles to improve. So instead of blaming external circumstances, if you take control of your progress and your journey, then that's the correct mindset to have to improve at anything. Another thing I learned is, this is more related to streaming or observing other people's games, is that it's a lot easier to criticize somebody else than to do it yourself. And I think it's really noticeable when, like, you're a streamer and you get people who backseat game you, and then you find out they're like 2,000 MMR below you, which almost always is the case. The people who backseat game are rarely people who are actually good at the game. And you see this a lot on the pro streams like ESL, GSL. People will make fun of pro players as if they could do better. So that's just an interesting perspective to have. Not just with StarCraft, but it's easier to criticize somebody else than to do a good job at something. Because it takes hours of dedication, hard work, perseverance to even become a somebody, right? And then you're playing on the big stage only to have ladder heroes thinking that they can do better. And I think that's also very true in the arts, where it's easy to judge. It takes like a few seconds to judge a piece of art, right? But you don't know how many thousands of hours that they poured into that work. So, good to be humble, and better to underestimate our abilities at the risk of looking like a fool than to overestimate our abilities while underestimating others. Um, Number 5 is to take control of your emotions. So tilt is a real thing that many people experience in StarCraft and also in other games and other hobbies in real life. When you lose control of your emotions and everything you do after just sucks as a result. Yeah, if you don't think straight, you tend to let the stress overwhelm your better judgment and ability to make decisions. Things just tend to get worse. And also I notice that whenever I start having negative thoughts about myself or a particular opponent I have on ladder, it tends to not end up well for me, regardless of who I'm having negative thoughts about. So if you can control your emotions and recognize that, check yourself before you wreck yourself, then that's really going to help at anything that you work on. And that's kind of similar to number 6, which is mindset is everything. I think I was on Barry Crunch's stream. He said that it's so important what you think, because if you think that you'll win, then you will, and when you think you'll lose, pretty much always you're gonna lose. And I talked about mindset a little bit, about growth mindset, where people believe. It's kind of a thought from this book called Mindset by Carol Dweck, which I highly recommend. So there's growth mindset versus fixed mindset. It's kind of similar to the internal versus external locus of control. So growth mindset, you believe that anybody can improve based on working hard and perseverance. Whereas the fixed mindset, as the name implies, with this mindset, you believe that you're born with all the talent you ever have, and your fate is predetermined by destiny, factors you can't control. So I think it's helpful to have a growth mindset, and research has shown that having a growth mindset actually statistically produces more successful people in every field, whether it's arts, sports, science, STEM, just every single measurable field. People who believe that hard work leads to success are the same people who tend to be the most successful. Of course, luck does play a factor, right? You have to be at the right place at the right time. You do have to have opportunities that others don't have, but you're at the end of the day, you're always able to make the most out of the situation that you're in. And how does that relate to StarCraft? Well, I've seen people get really frustrated. They'll blame things like balance, they'll blame things like Smurfs for why they're not improving. I mean, we're all playing the same game, right? We all encounter the same Smurfs. That's a small part of it, but you can't let you give up, and you can't let that determine how far you go. If you actually want to get good at something, you have to realize you're the one in control of how far you go. So I guess just keep that internal locus of control. And number 7 is you can always be better. So that's not to sound pessimistic, but I think of it as very motivating, because StarCraft is such a complicated game. You can spend thousands of hours of your life on it and only reach what seems to be a low rank. But it's also amazing, like, how high the skill ceiling is. It really, there's no cap. Like, you can be unlimited. You can have unlimited APM, unlimited speed, unlimited strategy and IQ, game sense, all of that, right? Like, look at the top players in the world, Cyril, Maru. It's just that whenever you think that's as good as anybody's ever gonna get, they just go out there and just blow your expectations out of the water. And then, of course, the difference between them and like a 6K player is, millions of times of skill, and the 6K player versus me, who's just a mid-masters player, still like millions of times skill. So I think it's really cool that you think that you can only get to a certain level based on your capacity, based on your natural skill or intelligence or speed, but then you work hard at it, and then before you realize it, you're actually doing so much better than you ever could have imagined. There was a period in time where I was grinding and not seeking proper help, and I was hard stuck in Diamond League, like many people experience. And I thought, like, there were some points where I thought I could never make Masters, but I did eventually make Masters, and I even hit early season Grandmasters, which I never in a million years would have expected back then. But as you get better, you realize that you're capable of getting better, like way better than you ever could imagine. And I think that's really motivating because it's not helpful to put a limit on yourself. Like, I think we all like to judge ourselves based on our life experiences, which is fair because we want to have realistic expectations, right? But the thing is, when you work hard at something and you have the right attitude and you don't give up, then you realize that you can actually go a lot further than you expected. And sometimes you just never know what the ceiling is for your potential. So yeah, I hope that was relatable, and if you thought of anything I forgot or didn't think of, please let me know. I'd be really curious to hear about it. Thanks so much for watching.